Out and about for Nutrien here at beautiful Tumby Park. Scott Witton joins me. Hello, Scotty.
G'day, Paul. How's things, mate?
Very, very well. We're a beautiful part of the world. I'm not quite in Queensland. I'm on my way to Queensland, but I'm on the border, I believe, not far from Tweed Heads.
We're about 3 k's from the border that way, so we're just this side, New South Wales side, at a little place called North Tumbolgum, and that's how Tumby Park got its name. The little village down below the house there is called Tumby, so that's why I named Tumby Park when we brought it what we did. So, yeah, we're still a New South Welshman here, which is... make sure we highlight that, because when it comes to football, the Queenslanders and New South Wales have a great rivalry.
And you are a Blue?
Absolutely, born and bred. Yep.
The Maroons win more than they lose, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
We're Victorians. Victorians are a dark blue, but we, for some reason, barrack for the Maroons. I don't understand how that works. We're not even going to go there. We'll leave that one alone. I said it's a beautiful property. You were wiped out only a couple of years ago through the floods and a lot of work. But you're upkeep and looking after it. But you must be rapt to get it back to where it is now.
Look, it's only been the last month. The flood was in February this year. So what about 6-9 months ago, whatever that is. But because we've had so much follow-up rain, we've only just basically got the paddocks and the shelters and the fencing and the mud cleaned up. To be honest, it's taken 6-7 months of. It's been and I feel for the people in Victoria as of today in Sydney who are going through flood. It's one of the worst things you can go through, a flood. And we were lucky we didn't lose any livestock, we didn't lose our houses set up on the hill there. But it's a devastating thing, flooding, it really is. Yeah,
the people in Shepparton, Mooroopna, Echuca are really suffering. At the minute I've come from there and it is bad, and unfortunately there's more follow-up rain, like you said, and it's starting to rain now. It was sunshine 2 seconds ago, now it's starting to rain again here. Nutrien, promote people, get the messaging out there about why they do what they do, and selling horses and buying horses. You've got quite a few going through the sales this year. The Sydney sale is on the 4th and 5th of March. I must say that. The next week for Brisbane, and then back for the 19th back to Bathurst. It's going to be, and then Victoria, of course, on 2nd and 3rd, I think it is, of April. 1st and 2nd actually of April. So busy month. I met you in New Zealand, and I found out a little bit of a different side to you, if you like. You have a real fascination with the breeding. You're not the sort of person that, I've got money, I'm just going to buy the dearest horses. You have a fair fascination for the breed and knowing what breeds sort of work.
Oh yeah, look, I don't know how to explain it, but I just try and identify value. I put a price on a horse. I look at multiple over the last 3, 4, 5 years of different Group 1 winners, different crosses, go back 1 or 2 generations, try and, the new stallions coming up, thinking I think this horse will, it's well known now, but early days had a lot of success with the Sweet Lose out of Bettor's Delight mares, still having good success, and I sort of pinpoint that. I mean, that's an obvious thing these days, but those days, when I first started, I was buying those horses for 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 grand. You know what I mean? So I pinpointed value. Horses like Multiple Baxter, he's won 100,000. Those sorts of horses, they're all, Sweet Lou out of Bettor's Delight mares. So just doing stuff like that, and not chasing the $100,000+ horses at yearling sales. I'd sooner spend money on the breeding side if I'm going to, with the betters and the captains and the better stallions, and put more money into that rather than chasing $100,000+ yearling at a yearling sale.
When you go to these sales, and do you put a budget on a horse? Like if you say, right, well, I think that horse is a $50,000-$60,000 colt or filly, and you stick to that? Pretty
much, yeah. I might go 10% over with what I think, and sometimes I'll get it totally wrong. I might think a horse is worth 40 and it'll sell for 80, and you just think, oh well, I got that wrong. But a lot of the time, I can pick most of the horses that I have left on my list up for what I sort of put the price tag on them to be. Yeah.
Our friends in New Zealand, they do a beautiful, brilliant weanling sale, and something I hope happens here in Australia, because turning the dollar around, if you like. But the way the guys at NZB, and Bardo won't mind me mentioning them at all, they run a great show. That weanling sale, I say to people, it's in the right time of year for people to get to New Zealand. It's something very special to go to and witness, isn't it?
Absolutely, yep. And there's great value there. The last few years it has increased significantly, but there's still value there. You can... there was an Art Major colt that I brought this year for I think 40 grand at the weanling sale. Like if I pinhooked him back through New Zealand's the main sale this year, he'd be a 100,000+ horse. Now he's fit, he's healthy, he's straight, he's true, he's correct, and he's there in front of you. You're taking all of that waiting time, the investment, the risk out of it. Going forward with my change of circumstances just sort of recently, I probably will cut back on my broodmares and focus more on buying my 6, 8 or 10 weanlings every year for myself, just to eliminate risk and investment for a longer period of time.
And with Nutrien coming into the sale ring, you say about that the pin hooking. They give you that option whether you want to keep them or if you want to pin hook them. And basically, it's one of the criteria of APG was that they had to have an Australian brand on them. So the pin hooking was out as far as getting them from New Zealand and being able to put them back through the sale. Nutrien, they changed that up now, and it makes a good opportunity. And the one thing I think with our industry, the more times $1 can go around, the better off our industry is.
Totally agree. And the other thing we'll see over years to come is our broodmare ban will strengthen the New Zealand broodmares. Well, overall, I think New Zealand's probably that little bit stronger from the breeding perspective, and I think with Nutrien allowing the New Zealand horses to come through the sales, I mean, there's a couple of fillies that I've brought this year going through. They will make ideal broodmares for someone at some point because they've got great New Zealand bloodlines going back to the Alta Cristianos and the Ahoka Punters that are, all of that. So I think there's a lot of benefits for the Australian industry by allowing those New Zealand horses to come back through.
Right, so the obvious question is going to be, once the sales come around in March, Tumby Park is selling, but they race them, they keep them. You alluded to their change of circumstances. The horses you've got for the sales, they are for legitimate sale. They're not giveaways, but they are legitimately there for sale.
No, exactly right. So we went to the yearling sale this year to buy, half a dozen horses, which we always do, whether to race them or to sell them. And at the time, I was just in negotiation to sell my sort of main business at the time, which has now happened. So going forward, I mean, we've had upward of 100 horses on the books at different times. With the selling of the business and just different circumstances, I just need to be a little bit more. I need to manage things much better than I used to. And having about 50 horses on the books is what we're ideally looking for. And we've got 18 horses going through Nutrien in Brisbane this year. But those 6 or 7 we brought from New Zealand, I brought them with the intention to race them. But all my band will be for sale. No, I'm not keeping. All are on the market for sale at a realistic price. Like that Art Major colt, he's a cracking colt. He cost me 60 landed. His reserve will be 70 at the sale. But he's just a stunner. Like he'd be 100,000 plus horse in New Zealand. So they're for sale, but they're going to have realistic prices. And going forward, I just want to keep about 6 horses a year instead of breed about 8 or 10, maybe buy 6, and that's where we're at. Where at the moment we've still got in excess of 70, 80 horses.
And you're working on that, and you are legitimately, and you're changing this property up probably to cater for that and make, cut a few of your expenses down as well. You were very forthright and open just there saying about that horse, and I think that's the one thing I want to get out there, because as I say, people see certain people as buyers only, buyers and racing horses. You've had a change, and we want to make sure that people are aware that because of the change, that changes your business. Is it? You said there before, we were talking about, you're not sure where you'll end up. Is yearling sales and weanling sales, is that somewhere that Tumby Park could end up in, like the pin hooking and continuing to sort of run a business that way?
Yeah, maybe. Look, I don't know, to be honest. Haven't thought that far ahead, but with the big change in our circumstances this year, we're just evolving, and I'm trying to get our property fully complete and done by sort of in the next 6 to 12 months, because I maybe want to turn this into more of an adjustment and pre-training setup, possibly. That's in the mix, and we've got to manage our racehorse numbers. As I said, we've still got 70 or 80 horses. We've got to get that back down to about 50, and then we've got the 18 yearlings that are coming through. So, there's all these things. So we'll just take one step at a time and see what the next couple of years brings. And it'd be nice just to have, 20 or 30 horses always at the races, and it'd be nice to have 10 nice broodmares and go to the sales each year and buy 10. That'd be ideal.
Number one, have you told your wife how many horses you've had? And if not, are you in trouble after this interview?
No, but she said to me, why are we selling all these horses? And I said, well, we just got to sell a few. She said, well, how many have we got? And I said, about 108. And she just shook her head, But you know what? We've the last 5 or 6 years, we've been winning 100 odd races every year. We've been getting Group 1 winners every year. We've had a lot of fun. Like we enjoy harness racing immensely. We're all off to Sydney on Thursday, just to go down and look at our babies work going out for the end of their 3rd prep and the semi-finals, the Breeders' Challenge are on. So we just love it. We love racing. Yeah.
I want to stay on the yearling sales for 2 seconds, but we're going to actually keep going back onto that racehorse. Do you enjoy the way things have changed over the last few years with competition? Everyone's lifted the bar from NZB. Their bar was always pretty high. Nutrien have come in, they've changed it up. APG, they're not gone. They're going to change. They're going to Do you enjoy, especially the professionalism and the way that people are preparers and that have changed the way they do things with the yearling sales?
Absolutely. It was about 6 or 7 years ago when I first started buying yearlings, and from where it was 6 or 7 years ago to where it is today, it's remarkable. The professionalism and the way that they're prepared, these yearlings, it's incredible. Yeah. So it's evolved immensely. Yeah, and it's all for the good. It's all for the good.
And it's fun as well.
Absolutely. We had a ball, like in New Zealand. We went over there. It was a 3 or 4 day carnival type thing for one yearling sale. We're booked in for the yearling sale in when's that? February? No, in New Zealand. Is it the weanling? No, the main sale in New Zealand.
Oh, it's in February. Yeah, it's in February. Yeah.
So that's the first cab off the rank. So that's the first book I've got to get through, and then it's straight into the Nutrien book. So,
do you reckon the Hilton will stock up on Coronas?
I hope so.
They're in a bit of trouble. Graham Hand, he'll be watching this. He'll be like, yeah, they better. He'll make sure they do it as well. Racing-wise, the success you guys are having, there's no mistake by it. I mean, there's a lot of forward planning and, astute picking. I'll say that to you because you were on the Sweet Loos, we're a great sponsor of mine, Woodlands, but you were on the Sweet Loos early. There was a lot of criticisms. You stuck fat. You continued to buy them even when people were probably a little bit critical. You must be wrapped with the results you're getting, and the wrapped, I would imagine, for Jared Orchin as well.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And as I said, we don't normally buy the $100,000 horses. We look for value. I go through and might have 30, 40 horses on my list at a yearling sale, and then me and Jared go through and eliminate them, and both decide what ticks the boxes, and he'll give me his pros and cons, I'll give his mine, and New Zealand's different. I sort of fly solo there, and we've had a bit of success doing that. And then once they go from that stage into the system, me and Jared, we work closely. We've got systems. As I said, I'm heading to Sydney on Thursday at the end of their third preparation. There's a benchmark that we now have for horses where they've got to be at the end of their third preparation. I'll go down there on Thursday and watch them work, or Friday. And if they don't meet that criteria, they're, for sale, for lease, or we just move them on. And that's how we now have good success, a good strike rate. We're not wasting money on horses that are only 50-50. We have a benchmark and a criteria, and we sort of stick to it. Yeah, and Jared's the best judge with that. He'll ring me and say, this one's got a heap of ability, but it's got a bad attitude, and it won't suit you, because I'm big on horses having the right attitude, because you very rarely see a bad horse with a bad attitude win Group 1 races. So, there's all those little things that we have to tick the boxes, and me and Jared work pretty closely with that. We talk most days with the racehorse, not so much most days, but 3 or 4 times a week on the programming and what horses are in work and about to come back into work and about to spell, and where the weanlings and the yearlings and whatever it is. But so we work well together.
Do you enjoy that, and are you a little bit proud of where it sort of come from? Like you all of a sudden you've got a benchmark. Probably 3 or 4 years ago, I'm tipping your benchmark wasn't as high as where it is now. Are you proud about it and the results that you guys are getting?
Well, you soon set a benchmark when you do a lot of money. Like, everyone thinks that Tumby Park's had a lot of success the last couple of years, which we have, don't get me wrong, but there was 2 or 3 years there where I was probably breeding the wrong horse and then buying the wrong horse, and you can do a lot of money and spend a lot of money over a 12-month period. So me and Jared just sat down and we both identified what the problem was. We weren't buying the right horses. We were buying the big, bulky, lanky, leggy horses that we knew would make 3- and 4-year-olds but weren't going to make 2-year-olds. So we changed it. And that was my fault more than anything. Big, magnificent, muscly, leggy horse would walk past me, and I'd say to Jared, I want to buy that horse. And he'd say, oh, bloody hell, it might go as a 4-year-old. But that was all my fault in the early days. But since then, we just sat down. We've got those benchmarks and criteria in place, and me and Jared work well together, and we've basically never had a blue. We've had a few disagreements when Jared used to drive, but that was more from my punting pocket. But we work terrific together, and we get on well, and we work well.
You enjoy it, don't you? And that's the one thing. Just listening to you there, and being so honest about you picking the wrong horses, but you actually enjoy it. You have a smile about your face, which is the one thing that I try to get out to people. We've got to be able to enjoy this game. We've got to change the way we think about it. Yeah. Harness racing is going backward if you listen to everyone and let it go backwards, but we have to lift the bar and change it, lift the benchmark, like what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and you've got to enjoy it. Honestly, I can't tell you whether I've been harness racing for 12 months, 2 years or 20 years, to be honest. Whilst ever I'm enjoying the horses at harness racing, I'll be in it for as long as I can be. The minute I get sour or I don't like it or something happens, there's no point doing it if you don't enjoy it. But at this point, I'm busting at the seams to get to Sydney on Thursday and Friday to watch the next crop of youngsters, bowl along. We've got a couple of Lazaruses there that Jared just says we've never had horses break in and cruise up and run up as nice on the bit as what these couple of Lazarus colts are. I'm excited to see them. So there's always something happening. We've got the semi-finals of the Breeders' Challenge Saturday night and then the Group 1 the week after. So potentially that's happening. I'm in the mix of maybe sending a horse to New Zealand for a Group 1 race. So there's always something exciting. And when you've got the better horses on your books, you're always watching the competition and the other horses. And then Leap to Fame was sensational the other night in the Victoria Derby. Well, we're meeting him next week or Saturday night in the semi-final. So you're on top of all your competition, but it's just good and I love it.
He was awesome, actually, Leap to Fame, and I was fortunate enough to see him at Tamworth, which is not that far from here. It's a little way, but not that far. But he is a beautiful horse. You're not going to give it, but what do you look for in, say, like we talked about Sweet Lou there before, first season sires? When you like a horse, what do you actually look for people like that are trying to learn and trying to probably improve what they're doing? I was going to ask you, is there a smoky first season sire going through the yearling sales? I'm not going to do that because you'll want to buy those potentially and race them on. But what do you actually look for in a stallion? Those first couple of years where they're the unknown factor.
Oh, look, you got to see them physically. Like the videos and the photos are one thing, but you got to get to these yearling sales and look at the horses. And once you're there, you don't really need your book. You got to go and find the right type of horse. They've got to tick the boxes physically. They've got to be straight, true, correct. Instead of buying off the page, and again, that was the mistake we made. It's got to tick all boxes. Whilst they've got to be nice on the page and they've got to tick all those boxes, they've got to be nice types. They've got to be true. They've got to be correct. They've got to be well put together, not too big, not too heavy. It's a balance. And I don't know. There was a gentleman said to me at the Sydney sales a couple of years ago, come and have a look at this horse. It's the most magnificent horse I've ever seen. Anyway, I went and looked. It went for 100,000, this horse, and I didn't like it one little bit. But that's the difference in opinion. He loved it, and I didn't. That horse has gone on to win a couple of races, don't get me wrong, but it was just one of those horses. I thought, I'll be surprised if that horse races as a 3-year-old. Certainly not as a 2-year-old, but anyway, it had a couple of starts as a 3-year-old. So we all look for different things, and the last couple of years we've been able to get our 2-year-olds up and running into the races just based on eliminating those things that were holding us back, the big heavy horses. And so our system now works well.
I reckon I know the answer to this one too, but I'm going to ask it. Do you look back and dwell on it?
The answer to that's probably no. In the big scheme of things, but if one slipped through, the one did slip through the cracks in New Zealand that I really liked and went on to win a Group 1 race, but it went for 100,000. I priced it at 60. There's things like that has happened, but you know what, that'll happen all the time. You got to put a price on them, and that was at the yearling sales about 3 years ago, and I wanted to go there and buy 5 horses for two or 300,000 instead of buying 2 for. I didn't want to blow my budget on 2 horses, but yeah, that horse went for, I think it was about 110, and I priced him at 60, so I was way off in the price, but he went on to win Group 1 races, that horse in New Zealand.
But you don't worry about it, at least the way to look at it is you want him for 60. If you had got him for 60, well, you're an astute judge and said you're the right judge, just your pricings was out.
No, and we identified the right horses, and that particular year in New Zealand, I think we brought 7, and 7 raced and 7 won. So he was one that slipped through the cracks, and he would have been 8 out of 8. And just on those New Zealand horses, I'm off to New Zealand again in a couple of weeks to look at. We've got 8 horses over there that we brought this year at the sales, and from all reports, Gavin Smith has those horses over there. We've sent the benchmark pretty high there. He said these are the best crop of horses you've brought in New Zealand. So no, at this stage everything's ticking along well.
New Zealand Cup, you're going to be there for that?
Be there for the New Zealand Cup. Yep.
We might be able to do this again. I'm over there for 12 days leading up to it, mate, so we could have a lot of fun. We're on the South Island. They won't know about it. I don't drink, everyone knows that, but the Coronas, they won't have to worry about it. But yourself and Graham Hand, a few of the others, you'll be right, won't you?
It's a big week, New Zealand Cup week. I tell you, got to be a stayer. Yeah, I used to be a stayer. I'm more of a sprinter these days, but I'll have to pace myself.
The great Mark Hughes, he's going to be there as well from Woodlands. He's already geared up for it. Don't worry about that. The sales, as I said, Sydney sales is on the first weekend in March, which is the 4th and 5th. Then we come here to Queensland, which is the 11th and 12th, I think. 11th and 12th. Then back to Bathurst, then to Melbourne on the 1st and 2nd of April. Online catalogues, talking to M just before, should go up later this week, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe Friday. They'll be up there. It's just rejigging things. It's an interesting little thing about the sales. This is not a stick up for M, actually. I was talking to Cam Bray the other day about this, that because now the seasons have changed, all our good races are at the end of this. Pedigree updates are going to be so key and so important, and there's going to be so many of them coming up from now on. You said the Breeders' Challenge, M's going to have the catalogue out this week, and there's already going to be major updates once the Breeders' Challenge races are over. So there's a lot to take in on it, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I think there's 5 or 6 Group 1s after catalogues that go to print, from what I can work out. Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. Tumby Park, Scotty Witton, he's a great bloke to talk to. He's got a lot of fun. Go up and shake his hand. He's not as scary as what he makes out he is or anything else like that. He's got a big draft of horses going through, but they are for sale. He said there before they've got reserves. If you want to come up and see him about the reserves and that, I'm sure you probably...
And I'll be transparent with all of that. The reserves will be very much transparent. If someone said, what's that horse worth, Scott, I will say, look, if I get 40,000, he's on the market. If I don't, I'll be keeping him. So I'm not doing it to lose money. As long as I can reduce numbers this year and break square from my investment, I'll be happy with that. So that's where we're heading, and that's the direction for this year at Nutrien.
Scotty, thank you very much for joining me out and about. I love it. I could stay here all day, but I have to make my way to Queensland very shortly. What do you say? It's only a K up the road or something, is it?
3 K's over that hill, so there's the border.
I've been driving a long time to find that, but that's okay, mate. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you in New Zealand.
Thanks, Paul. See you, mate.